Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my May wrap up. So May was my best reading month ever. I read 25 books, 4 of them were pretty short, but they counted on Goodreads, so I'm counting them. 25 books in the month of May. I found some great new books, great new authors, really just had a lovely time reading in May. So overall stats, I'm going to have to look at my notes, but I read 4 books I didn't rate, which I'll explain in a minute, 2 1-star books, 1 1.5-star books, 7 3-star books, 2 3.5-star books, 5 4-star books, 1 4.5-star book, and 3 5-star books. Okay, right, so maybe I should explain the ones I didn't rate first. So the books I didn't rate were Savage Stone Age, Awesome Egyptians, Groovy Greeks, and Rotten Romans. So these are horrible histories books. I am reading the box of 20. It's called the Blood Curdling box of books. I sent Brittany the Terrible Tudors one on its own, and she really loved it. I told her there was a box set, which was too expensive for her to buy, so I bought it, and I'm going to read all the books and annotate them and take them with me when I go to visit. So I read the first 4 this month. I didn't rate them just because I'm obviously not the target audience. I mainly know it from the BBC TV show, but these were written first. Now I've said that, I want to check, but I'm pretty sure these were written first. Yeah, first published 1994. And they are, it says on the back, it's history with the nasty bits left in. So you just get all the gruesome details that you maybe wouldn't have learned in school as a kid. The TV show is amazing. If you've got it on your Netflix and you've never watched it, then just watch it. You don't need to be a child. It's still absolutely hilarious. But yeah, worked through the first 4 books of these. I just pick these up when I have time. I've been doing I'm going to do like a whole vlog of me reading all 20. So I still have 16 to go. So it might take me some time, but I've read 4. I've made some good progress on that. I'm not going to talk too long about each of the books just because there are 25. We'd be here all day. The first 1-star book I read was The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I hated this book. I probably don't even have a valid reason for a 1-star rating. I just really disliked it. So this was about, we're told from the start, 2 women, Nellie and Vanessa, and what we're told at the start is that Richard has divorced Vanessa and ran off with Nellie, and Vanessa's not taking it very well. That is the start of the story. So what I thought was going to be the big twist at the end was the big twist 100 pages in, and then the next 290 pages were a complete waste of my life, and I did not enjoy it. This would have been a great little short story thriller, but as a full-length novel, it did nothing for me, and I unhauled it pretty much immediately, so didn't love that one. The next 1-star book is one I read literally yesterday, and that is Cowboys Don't Cry by Anne McAllister. So I'm also doing a reading challenge where I read cowboy romances just because my boyfriend's American. He's not even a cowboy, but whatever, it's still a good time. But Cowboys Don't Cry was so bad, I can't even be apologetic. My main problem with this, I have 2 main problems. There was no foundation for any of the characters' feelings. They just all hated or loved each other instantly, and then time didn't work very well. I was never sure whether I was supposed to be 2 hours since the last chapter or 2 years. It was very confusing. But this is about Tanner, who is a ranch hand, and the ranch is given to this lady Maggie after the original owner dies, and he doesn't like Maggie from the get-go, and that is pretty much the whole story. And it was shockingly bad. I'm sorry, in my opinion. Next, the 1.5-star book I read was Sex, Marry, Kill by Todd Travis. So I had this on my Kindle. I got it free through a BookBub email. It was going for free on Amazon. And it was pretty bad. So this is about a group of 5 kids who are all outcasts, and they play the game, they get invited to play the game Sex, Marry, Kill, which gives them the power to either make somebody just have sex with somebody else, make someone kill someone else, or kill themselves, and I guess marry makes sense. I did that in completely wrong order. It was very awful, which is why I wanted to give it 1 star. I gave it an extra 0.5 star because I started to care about one of the characters towards the end. That was it. It was not good. I wouldn't recommend it, but I still read it, so it's in the wrap up. Next, we jump straight up to the 3-star books. So these aren't particularly in order. Most of these I've now unhauled all the Kindle books anyway, but the one I can show you is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. I read this as part of the Believathon. This was my book published before the year 2000. I was quite upset by this one because I love Narnia, I love the films, I love the world, but the actual book didn't do anything for me, unfortunately, so I felt a little bit let down, but it was a sweet read. 3 stars is not a bad rating in my book at all. It is just fine, and I also own Prince Caspian, which I'm hoping to read pretty soon, and I wonder whether I'll enjoy it a bit more. So the rest of my 3-star books I don't have, so I'm just going to read them off my list and stick a little photo in. The first one being An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I actually got this on NetGalley like way after it had come out, so that's confusing in itself. This was fine. It was the first book I read in May, so I don't really remember it. I remember being slightly intrigued to what was going on, but I didn't really care about the characters at all. I wasn't a giant fan of how it was written, and I wasn't a giant fan of the story overall, but I did vaguely enjoy my time reading it, which is how it got 3 stars. Again, I've noticed I am speaking a little bit too much, so if you want more in-depth thoughts about these, like, comment down below, or my Goodreads is linked. But for now, I don't have time to give in-depth thoughts, or we'll be here forever. The next one is Truly Wildly Deeply by Jenny McLaughlin. This again was fine. This was about a girl with cerebral palsy who goes off to college, and she meets a guy Fab there who is a Polish immigrant, and everyone thinks he's a little bit weird, but he seems to have some sort of fascination for our main character, whose name I've completely forgotten. And they form the start of a friendship through him basically just not leaving her alone. So this again was fine, but I didn't love it. Emily from Emily Kathleen Reads, she now has it because she said it sounded interesting. So she now has it. Actually, she doesn't. It's in my cupboard waiting to post to her because she is claiming a lot of my books and I'm like just doing them in bulk now rather than one by one. So she will own this book. Next is Nerve by Jeanne Ryan, however we're going to say it. This book was just a bit of a letdown. I bought it after I watched the film maybe 2 years ago now, and I just did not enjoy it at all compared to the film. This was another one where the time felt weird. Like, we knew it was in one night, but I really struggle if I can't map out like how long a situation has been happening. I don't know why. It's just like my pet peeve, where if I'm slightly confused about how long something's been going on for, that really throws off the whole storytelling for me. I did read this when I actually sat and read it, I read it relatively quickly. It took me time to get into it, but then I wanted to know the ending. It was good, that's why it got 3 stars. It just did nothing special for me, and I really want to rewatch the film to see if I was just biased in buying the book in the first place. Next, I have 2 Percy Jacksons. The first one being Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, which is book 2. And then I have Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, which is book 3. Maybe I'll just show you both the covers. I don't know how I'm going to manage that. So talking about these 2 together, obviously I can't really say anything because they are the second and third book in the Percy Jackson series. Brittany has convinced me to read the Percy Jackson books. I gave the first one 4 stars and I gave both of these 3 stars. They were fine, but I really just think because there's no nostalgia linked to them for me, it just wasn't like my favourite book of the month, because a lot of it was obviously childish, but that is the point. There were some points I genuinely laughed out loud. Like, they brought Edward Teach in as a character at one point, which blew me away. I was like, okay, this is fine. But yeah, it just wasn't really like, I didn't love them that much, but I had a fine time reading them. So I am getting rid of them. Brittany is going to own them the next time I can put them in my suitcase. And yeah. Hopefully she can get more use out of my like sprayed edges, nice additions than I did reading them. And the last 3-star book I read was In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This was fine, but I guess the plot pretty much, God, a third in maybe, I guessed it all, which I'm not really like a seasoned thriller reader, so me working it out was a big deal for me because normally I am completely shocked. So this was about a girl called, what was her name? Nora gets invited on Claire's hen do, which is at a remote cottage up north somewhere, north of England I should say, and she hasn't spoken to Claire in 10 years. and she doesn't really know why she's there, and that's pretty much like how much of the plot I can say. I didn't love it, I guessed it, but I did have fun reading it. I read it all in a day, so 3 stars, a fine rating. Next, I have the 3.5 star books, the first one being The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I am not a major fantasy reader, I know this about myself, but I owned this book and really wanted to give it the time it deserved to see whether I liked it. I read this near the start of the month. I've just checked. I finished it on the 3rd of May. So I really read this quite a long time ago now in my head. I thought the writing was absolutely beautiful. Some parts between the characters really had me hooked, but it just wasn't the best thing I've ever read in my opinion. And I didn't care too much about like the fairy politics, which is obviously what people normally read fantasy books for. So did enjoy it. There was like a couple of little romancy bits that I did enjoy. 3.5 stars, and I have since bought the sequel, which you probably can't see. Where actually it is here, The Wicked King. I bought the sequel because I saw it going cheap. And I feel like it's just one of those series that I'm going to buy the nice paperbacks, they're gorgeous books, and enjoy them to some degree, but I know they're not going to be my favourite things in the world. The next 3.5 star book I got was, ignore what I just said. I gave 3.5 stars to Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno. So I did actually tab this book up. Like it was a gorgeous book. Like the writing was absolutely lovely. But this is about Lottie, whose Aunt Helen dies, and Helen has left her letters to read, like when she's completed tasks. And Helen seems to be based on J.K. Rowling, like she's a very popular children's author. So there's stuff that goes along with that. It was completely fine. There was a twist that I guessed. Like I was keeping post-it notes throughout. I'm gonna have to try and find one now because I didn't want to ruin it on the pages. But you can see like a blue post-it note there where I put my theory of what was going on. And I turned out to be right. So I couldn't really, I was stuck on a 3-star rating because I'd worked it out, but because of the beautiful writing, I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a good time, I'd recommend it. I've also read Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, which I gave a similar rating, maybe 4 stars. And I just think she's got like such nice writing that even if you don't thoroughly love the story, it's just still a good time to read. Next, the 4-star books. These aren't in any order themselves. I'll just say the first one is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is a YA thriller based on a geek, a jock, a criminal, a princess. Like a whole Breakfast Club thing. In detention. So 5 students go into detention and 1 dies while in detention. It's very, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It is definitely Breakfast Club, add Pretty Little Liars. It's a very good time. I really enjoyed it. I already now own the sequel. I own also the other book that's sort of related, which is Two Can Keep a Secret. So I've got Two Can Keep a Secret and One of Us is Next. There was like a little romance in this. There was a good level of mystery. It was quite a good thriller. It just wasn't my typical cup of tea. There was something quite missing for 5 stars. But 4 stars, really, really loved it, and I'm excited to carry on with the series. The next 4-star rating I gave was The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This was about, I've forgotten all these characters' names already. Characters' names are not my thing. So there were twins. One of the twins is, I believe, is she bisexual or a lesbian? I believe she's bisexual, but I could be completely wrong, so I will apologise in advance if I am wrong. And she gets a girlfriend, and the girlfriend is trying to set up the other twin with her friend Will. And she sort of thinks she's interested in Will. She's had 26 crushes before, but has never been kissed. So she tries to sort of go for Will, but at the same time, she's not that interested. And I just thought this was a really, really sweet book. There was something missing for 5 stars. I did enjoy the romance elements, but something just wasn't quite there for me, so it stuck at 4 stars. Next is my buddy read with Emily from Nova Novels for the month, and that is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I gave this 4 stars. This was a reread for me, and on my first read, I also gave it 4 stars. This is about 2 twins, Kath and Ren, who go away to college, and Ren is like a lot more social and isn't relying on Kath anymore, where Kath feels like she needs the support of her twin. She's not really getting it. She struggles with like the social element straight away. And she also writes fan fiction based on Simon Snow, which again, so I had 2 books this month, but it was sort of Harry Potter. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I like the romance elements again. There was just something quite missing for me to give this 5 stars, which is exactly what I said the first time I read it last year. Next, we have my first read for Believeathon, and that was A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan. This was so cute. I don't know what it was missing for 5 stars, but it was missing something. This is about a girl called Violet. I've just noticed my covers bent. Violet, who her parents forced to move to this new town called Perfect, where everyone has to wear glasses because they go blind instantly, and everything just isn't quite as it seems. So good. Perfect level of creepy. It gave me Coraline vibes for no reason whatsoever, because it's nothing like Coraline, but that is like the level of spookiness I got from this book. I have the next 2 books in this series and I can't wait to carry on with them. It was such a good time, and I'm so grateful for the Believeathon for getting me interested in picking up middle grade. And the final 4-star book was Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. So this is obviously the 3rd book in the Hunger Games series. I'm pretty sure I gave the Hunger Games 5 stars and then Catching Fire and Mockingjay both 4 stars. Nothing was particularly wrong with them. It just didn't do everything that the Hunger Games did for me, so I didn't feel like I could give it the same rating. Again, can't really tell you about the plot of this. So I read this along with people who were planning to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as soon as it was released. I'm not interested because I'm not like a die-hard fan of the Hunger Games. This was the first time I've ever read Mockingjay, so I wasn't excited about the prequel, but I just got hooked into the group buddy read, which I always have fun doing. So yeah, it was fine, 4 stars, just didn't do everything the Hunger Games did. And I think if I see the prequel going in a charity shop or in the library, I'll potentially pick it up, but I'm definitely not going to go out and buy a brand new like hardback of this book. I will just wait until I see it going cheap or in the library, and then I'll maybe give it a go. Next, the 4.5-star book I read, I keep getting this wrong, was Shadowcasts by Rochelle Mead, which is the 3rd book in the Vampire Academy series. So I've been reading a Vampire Academy book a month. 3rd month in, we have Shadowcasts. This I really, really loved. My voice is completely gone. This video is far too long. So, Shadowcasts, it's a lot longer than the past books, so I was expecting quite a lot more from it. I'm pretty sure I gave Vampire Academy 5 stars, Frostbite 4.5 stars, so we stuck on the 4.5 star rating. I did enjoy all of the action and drama in this. I love the romance element. There's something that finally happens in this book which I was waiting for in the last book, and it finally happens in this one, and I'm pretty sure I cried. I would like to reread this and annotate it with all of my feelings because I had a lot of feelings. Again, there was just something missing for me, just for that extra little half star, but it was a very, very good read, and the way it left off, I cannot wait to read the next book, which I'll be picking up at the start of June. Next, I have my 3 5-star books, and I don't even think I can give them in order of how much I love them because it was all on par, really. These were all amazing books. The first one being Clockwork Prints by Cassandra Clare. So this is the 2nd book in the Infernal Devices series, and I think I can say with confidence, so me and Brittany have been reading them in publication order, so we're up to City of Fallen Angels we've read, so this is like, I'm pretty sure we've read that. Yes, we've read up to City of Fallen Angels of the Mortal Instruments, and this is the 2nd book in the Infernal Devices. And I can say with confidence that this is my favourite book apart from City of Bones. So City of Bones and then Clockwork Prince. It was beautifully written. I am in love with all of the characters. There are times I cried. So I buddy read this with Brittany, and we were kind of reading it on the same day, which meant we could interact more with each other, and we were sending each other quotes from it. It was just so beautiful, and Brittany was crying, and it was a very, very good time, and I definitely enjoyed this book. Next, I have a read again from Believeathon, and that was Wonder by RJ Palacio. This made me cry my heart out. This is about a little boy called August who they don't completely explain, like they don't give a syndrome or anything, but he has some sort of facial difference that means he's been homeschooled up to the point of this book, and then he's encouraged to go into mainstream school, and basically he's just struggling with the way that people are reacting to him and treating him because of his facial differences. And this contained a lot of like how cruel children can be, sometimes without meaning to be cruel, and it just broke my heart. So I have a baby cousin with a very, very rare syndrome, and like literally she's one in a couple hundred in the world. So this just gave me so many feelings where I thought, what if my baby cousin was treated this way? Like how how could she go through that and come out as strong as August does? And yeah, I'm getting emotional now. It made me so emotional. I read it in one sitting. No, that's a lie. I went to sleep and then picked it up first thing in the morning because I was just far too invested. And I would just like to say thank you for Brittany for giving me this book and forcing me to read it, because it changed a lot of my opinions, and it sort of opened my eyes to how children can act and how sometimes they don't mean it, because they're just kids and they can be cruel, but they don't mean to be cruel. It meant a lot to me, and I'm very grateful that I picked this up. And finally, the last 5-star book I read, Brittany is fed up of hearing about, and that is Falling for the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox. So this was one of my read cowboy romances because I joke that my boyfriend's a cowboy, and the main character, apart from spelling it slightly different, had exactly the same first name. So this was about Colton, who, again, like the other cowboy book I read, he's a ranch hand, and a girl comes along who does bookstagram at like a very professional level, and she uses him and his body to take photos of cowboy romances. And oh Jesus Christ, it was amazing. And I don't want to give spoilers because I'm really trying not to, but this turned into like a long distance relationship. Can I leave you? How will I cope without you? Do I need to move to where you are? Like, it was absolutely gorgeous. I cried at a smutty book. Like, what is wrong with me? But it was just so perfect. I now have a full spread in my journal with quotes from this book, because there's some quotes that if you swap the name and the state, so if you like add an E to the name Colton because the guy spells it weird, and if you swap Texas for Illinois, then it was exactly thoughts that have gone through my head. Absolutely loved it. I have it on my Kindle, and I really feel like seeking it out to see if it's a physical book that I can own and keep forever and treasure, because it was perfect. So this has been a very long wrap up, but if you've stuck with me this whole way through, then thank you ever so much. I really do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to say that next month is going to be shorter, but I have a lot of reading plans. I'm very proud that I managed to hit 25 books, which is the most books I've ever read in a month, beating April, which was then like, was it 21 books? Was the most I've read. So yeah, I had an absolutely great reading month in May, and I just hope I can repeat it in June. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.